Hello world, this is Nai Ji Coach, and this is going to be a meaty one. I am experiencing a wide variety of emotions, sadness, longing, anger, fear, guilt, I've been pondering on this for about a day, trying to see what is the right thing to do here, and I have come up with the best I can. So here it is. Why am I doing the vlog today? That is because, besides it being my weekly time to do it, but there was an email from Ademus that was forwarded to me where he gave very strident critique to Podlair. And then also I had a hangout with Ben where we talked for a good while about concerns he had about things that we agreed or disagreed upon with the theory. And that ended with Ben feeling that he needed to leave Podlair as a core member and go do his own thing, although we are still friends. And so I got critique from both Ademus and I got critique from Ben. Ben's areas of focus were a bit different. And so I think I'll address Ben's first, and then I will get into Ademus and then wrap up with any closing thoughts. All right, so got my big glass of water here. Let's get into it. All right, so I guess start with some questions he asked. He had some questions he wanted to know, and I kind of just quickly give you my answers to those so you know my mind on that. He wondered if I still consider myself to have 100% Moser reading accuracy. No, I don't. That was something that I thought was true, and now I realize is not, and I'm going to have those taken off of the forum, that designation. Then as far as why I felt that, as I told Ben, I felt as if my signal was so strong and it was under a bunch of, mimetic gunk because all these samples are ones that were already famous before we got here, so they're very heavy and they already have associations and they have to be seen through, and thus I was getting like a modifier. So kind of like a role-playing game, you can actually have like 100% archery, and maybe even like 150%. That means that you can actually hit 100% with 50% modifiers against you. But you can have modifiers more than that to where you have 100% or even more than 100%, but actually the modifiers are taking you beneath that. So that was kind of my thinking, is that I am under a massive kind of modifier that really no other human is going to ever have to do again. This will be a one-time deal here, but that makes them all super hard reads. And so that's how I was calculating that. But now I feel that it's just really not helpful at all. Also, on the helpfulness, I believe I was using it as a crutch, a mental crutch, and that's something I've had to watch out for over the years with George Martin, Daniel Tammet, the Gracie brothers in mixed martial arts. I mean, it's a wide variety of mojos I've done this to, but it's because there's something about them that made me feel like a kinship as far as what was going to be necessary as far as a being that could actually pull off this task I have in front of me. So although the task in front of me is to try to figure out this riddle, I'm also experiencing quite a lot of confidence issues, although it's gotten better, and thus I'm able to see that that was a crutch I was taking because, for example, as I told Ben, I do not know if I can solve the riddle. I don't know if I'll ever hit absolutely firm data bedrock, and that was something that was unsatisfactory to him, and I understand that. I do. I still feel good going forward myself. I understand it's not for everyone. But anyway, yeah. So the 100%, no, I don't think that's appropriate anymore, and I clung to it because I thought of the RPG modifier on ranged weapons, and also because it gave me some kind of thing to hang on of, like, in those dark nights of the soul, which I have, frequently, although it's getting better with the data getting better. But, back in the day, I needed things to like whack away the demons with. And so that was a crutch. It was a crutch, but for the period of time I was in, it was wrong to have a crutch, but I also don't know how I would have gone forward being as anxious as I was about this discovery and what it meant as far as implications to the world if it's true, and implications to my sanity if it's not true. So I was kind of, wigging out, and that was like, okay, my psyche, my genius working on this, it'll get there eventually because it's 100%. Yeah, it's 100% under a lot of stress, but it will eventually churn its way to getting the answer, and I needed to tell myself that. Now I've accepted that that may just not be the case. I don't like it. I really don't like it, but it is the truth of it. And so, yeah, moving on. That was done in weakness. I'm strong enough now to see that that was done in weakness and it should be corrected. What else? He asked me if I still think I'm the best reader. Yes, and this gets back to a theme that'll be coming up here frequently in this vlog, which is with what I believe I'm seeing, which is more than other people are seeing. I believe that it is such a thing and is organized in such a way that it would have to be so biologically driven that it's running everything. It is the programming. I believe that what I'm seeing says that I'm looking at the programming of humans. That's a big, big, massive what if. If I'm wrong, then I'm really off base. I'm way ahead of my time, or I'm way off base. It could go either way on that, and I acknowledge that. Although I believe I'm not crazy, but I acknowledge that as a possibility. I acknowledge that if you look at my story, you look at me, you look at the way I talk, and you look at other people in history that are kind of like me, there's a higher percentage than average of them being geniuses. There's also a higher percentage of them being cuckoo. So, I get it. I do. All right. He asked me, best reader. So if what I'm seeing is true, then I believe it is the most important way of looking at humans. There's many ways you could read a human, like reading them to tell if they're lying or not, or things like that, or if they're, like me, Ben, we're talking, like to tell if they're aggressive or not. There's other readings, but I believe what I'm looking at would be the most important, and I believe I am the best at it and getting better. So I still stand by I am the best reader, although I am humbled by the data. I am humbled by the work it takes to get good at it. I am humbled by how far I have to go. But I do still believe that I'm the best reader, yes. All right. Is this the most important discovery? Ben and I went back and forth quite a bit on this. He has a lot of things where he believes could say that it is not. I disagreed. Short version is he said there's a lot of factors that could have predictive powers over people, like how they're raised or their ethnicity and things like that, as compared to the Mojo phenomenon. I disagree. I believe that the Mojo phenomenon, I don't want to rehash the argument or try to beat him. That's not the point. The point is we disagreed. I thought that actually the Mojo phenomenon, I pointed things that made me think that it's the most important discovery of humans, and he contended that other things could be as important or more important. He asked me the question, and the answer is yes, I still believe this to be the most important discovery. Despite being humbled by the data and really realizing how far I have to go in both my volume and my training level, yeah, I haven't seen anything to shake me off of thinking I'm seeing the programming of the human condition. I'm looking at a direct manifestation of it. There's some kind of mathematical thing going on that's going across all the people I'm seeing. I could be wrong. I could be crazy. This could be figments of my imagination. But I don't believe it. I believe it to be true, and if it's true, then it's the most important thing as far as what's making humans do human stuff. All right, next. Do I consider myself the smartest person? No. I don't know if I ever said I was the smartest person, but if I ever did say that, no. Because to me, smart, that's sort of like generally you're smart. Like maybe it means lots of languages, or maybe it means being able to memorize a lot of stuff, or maybe it means like high-level computation, or maybe it means like emotional intelligence. Like I'm not quite sure what exactly that means as far as smart. I have used the term mega genius, and my reasoning for that still stands. Again, humbled as I am in my position as working on this project, I still believe it to be true, and I believe myself to be the best at doing it right now. So I believe that that is the biggest breakthrough in science, the biggest breakthrough in spirituality, and putting it together in a visual form is actually the greatest work of art. It's soul art. It's never been done like that before, like actual souls categorized like that, so you can go get group essences. No, never been done. So as a kind of like, you know, psycho-pump experience, you know what I mean, as a psychedelic experience, as an art-induced reverie, no, it is singular and apex, in my opinion. I understand that other people may not hold that, but I do, and that is my reasoning for it. Actually, a lot of really genius people have lots of stuff they can't do. So I have lots of stuff I can't do. But I believe those three things I just named that I am doing are the kinds of things that put you very high on lists of that, as far as like biggest accomplishment or contribution to humanity. Yeah, I'm very high in that list. I think possibly the top of that list, if I'm not crazy. What else? Okay, so then the conversation went into, I'm gonna have like, this is probably not maybe in direct order, but this is one thing that came up was proof. And this is a big deal, is that I believe that the data is getting stronger and stronger, and some people are believing that the case or pod layer is getting shakier and shakier. And I understand that. There's been a lot of purifications, and that can make doubting the methodology. For me, and Jailene, for example, in the last Sunday sessions we've been doing with Ben, this came up, which is that Ben, in the conversation we're talking about, and we brought all down to like the new first degree and how there'll be A-grade samples. He was like, yeah, but I'm still not even first degree. I understand that. He can't see it, and that's either because he doesn't have the ability to see it right now in his life, or because I messed up and this isn't really what I think it is. I'm not saying which way it is, but there is now, I can see something that I believe I'm seeing and he is not. And because when I look at the A-grade samples, they look, to me, the cleanest ever. And so that gives me more confidence that I am seeing the lines of this and finding out how I can find those lines in more, you know, fuzzy samples. It's making me more confident. But that's because of how much I think I'm seeing. Like, to me, the logic-based cheeks, for example, they're really popping to me more over the years, like getting more trained at looking at them. And the A-grade samples, it's like, da-da. So, to me, but not to Ben, and that's not his fault, because, you know, it's no fault if he doesn't have the ability, one thing, and it may just be no fault because there's nothing there. There's nothing there to see. So I'm, you know, tilting at windmills. I'm running towards mirages, perhaps. On that, the proof is the A-grade samples. That is the best proof I can offer. So to me, we're at that point in science where you have observations where they can clearly see it's not, or they can clearly see it is. But there are some things that actually are or are not there, not as easy to tell. You might have microscopes or telescopes that are kind of like an in-between stage of seeing it. Before it wasn't seeing it all, later on it'll see it clearly, but right now it's seeing something. Okay, that just may be the case, and the A-grade is what I can present. And if the A-grade samples don't move you, I understand that pod layer doesn't have much to offer you then, because all my confidence of all the degrees and higher levels of theory that are, you know, based off that, but are more abstract, it's because the confidence I have in that. So you have to ask yourself how much confidence those A-grade samples give you. That's the best I have to offer. I can talk about it, and I can write about it, and I can blog about it, and so forth, but really, that's the best I have. And if it is insufficient, there are zero hard feelings. Zero, really. I'll just take that as data. That person didn't see it. Okay? And, you know, like certainly like Ben, for example, you know, Ben actually is a very smart, good, hardworking, brave person. So he's giving it a good, solid go, and he was, you know, not seeing it. That was something that kind of came up. So one is that the core data, he does not feel the confidence to really stack on that. And that is, for me, you know, sad, but totally understandable, and it is what it is, and I wish him the best of luck. But also what came up is that things weren't moving fast enough. Like his skill set wasn't progressing fast enough, data bedrock wasn't getting there fast enough people weren't seeing it fast enough, converging on higher accuracies fast enough, things like that. And again, I believe I'm seeing it very strongly. And so the fact that it's taking longer to get to the gold, I really feel like I'm on the veins. I feel like I'm digging towards it. So yeah, I wish it'd be here sooner too, but I really feel it's getting there. But if the A-grade samples aren't particularly moving, I understand that's very little motivation to actually push forward when you don't feel you've been getting a return on energetic investment. And again, I understand and best wishes with whatever you do spend your heroic energies on. What else? Okay, something that kind of came up in the conversation. I'll just go over quickly here since I've mentioned it, but I don't really want to be teaching in this vlog. And also, I'm going to kind of be going solo going forward in a lot of ways, so this might not be relevant. I may not be talking to people. But there are now 5 degrees of pod layer practice of the theory, and what used to be the first degree included the physiological cues and then also under the hood that was causing it. That's being separated out. The under the hood is going to be second degree, and first degree is just what is on the surface, so that you can fully describe a Naiji just by visual cues, not mentioning anything about under the hood and related to that, the innate energetic preferences. You're talking about aesthetic qualia. So treating it as an aesthetic categorization first, and then speculative after that is what is causing and what drivers are creating, what internal qualia of energetic preferences is causing the aesthetic qualia that we're seeing. All right. And then within the first degree now, I'm even going to separate that to where only the A-grade samples is something I feel firm with, and all the other ones are speculative, or not speculative, like experimental, use at your own risk. I'm going to be very strong about saying that for whatever talk in the public I do, is that yeah, I'm kind of just surging ahead, and if you see anything that might be helpful, feel free. I am a I'm a sharer. Go ahead, but I'm not recommending anything. Yeah, I want to step away from the recommending business in general. In regards to well, I'll talk more of that later, but I want to be more careful about doing that and focus more on the figuring out process and kind of shying away as much from the implications and the leaning on people to get into it, because those are two related things, but they split the energies. So I want to focus more on just the one. All right. So before we get into Demas's critique now, I'll just go ahead and mention it just so there's no confusion on this, is that I in no way consider myself to be a perfect human. The genius that I believe I have comes at a cost, so I have a lot of eccentricities that are issues, and then I have other things that just may be straight out character flaws. I've mentioned a lot of these over the years. The anxiety, the depression, the anger, the loneliness, the hearing voices, the insomnia, yada yada yada. You know what I mean? That can be all factored into. I would be fully disclosing the kind of person I am as I answer these questions, because Demas had a lot of critique for both my ethics and my logic, and so you can listen to me talk, and you now know that I have lots of issues. I don't want to hide that, and now I'm going to address these as honestly and authentically as I can. All right. Demas said quite a few things in there, but I guess I can kind of stress it overall. I think overall Demas is very skeptical. And he wishes he had not spent so much time doing pod layer work. So that's the general tone, and there's a lot of things kind of making the case of what we're doing is not ethical, or me in particular, not ethical, not logical, and not valuable, basically. All right. So no particular order here, but there are quite a few critique thrusts. Where to start, I guess. Anywhere really. I'll just kind of check these off as I go. One is that he said that I am floundering. I'll start with this one because I'll try to, I want to be reasonable. I understand how what I'm doing can be interpreted as floundering. I do, and so I acknowledge that some people may feel that way. I do not agree. I believe that there is a feel to when one is grappling with something intense, and there's a thrashing that goes from that. And a lot of times in this thrashing, as you're grappling to get forward of something, you're not really in great control of your body, other than you're making your body and that other force move towards the direction that you believe you want to go in. So I believe that's what's going on. I am perhaps thrashing with exertion, but I don't believe I'm floundering. So for example, George Martin, he was down as an IG a long time ago, and for a while he's been moved to Nijai, and I think that is better because he looks objective to me. He looks like he has the Jai and the Z. But I have wondered with some of the recent updates with Zenai males if he might perhaps be sort of like a rounder, more cherubic Nijai. I'm not teaching here, I'm just saying my logic when I was moving forward. So to me, based on the parameters I've set in the theory of what I believe I'm looking at, to me that's moving closer. And the fact that whatever happens when I look at him again will be better still, but I could see that can look like floundering. That's like 3 efforts, like he's not fine after 3 times. That's one way of looking at it. I believe I'm getting closer and closer to it. It's taking me more times than it does with other cases to get on the green and then get the ball in the hole. So I don't think I'm floundering. I may be misstroking. I may be, taking way too many shots to get there for people's comfort level. But I don't think that's floundering. But I accept that that's an opinion question. All right. What else? Well, here's one that I was really surprised on. Is that you saying that I'm making it up? Okay, that's basically, in a way, saying that I don't believe in the mojo phenomenon. If you think that, I really don't know why you think that, because I live my life of what I do with my time, what I don't worry about, what I do worry about. All that kind of stuff is based on moves of I think this is real. So I'm surprised by that. And you said in the email that you know me more off camera. Yeah, but off camera I have more anxiety, more issues with the fact that I'm not as far along with this as I would like to be in figuring it out. So where does that come from? If I'm making it up, I don't. And this is key. I do acknowledge I could be crazy. Everyone, I may be crazy. I don't think I am, but maybe I am. Yeah, but that's a figment of my imagination, not making it up. Making it up sounds like it's a conscious, willful effort to make it up. I'm not. My spirits are giving me stuff, and I think I'm looking at stuff, and then between the stuff my spirits are saying and what I think I'm seeing with humans, we're like talking about it and coming to various conclusions or at least speculations. So that's what I'm doing, everyone. You can all judge for yourself if you actually think I'm making this up. There are way too many things that I've done in my life that would make no sense. Energy-wise, risk-wise, they wouldn't make sense. Reputation-wise, it wouldn't make sense if I didn't think it was true. So, I highly disagree with that. Well, on that, Demas stated that he made it up with me. And that's not true. So that's just inaccurate, because I was working on the theory for like a year or two when I got to California, and I was working on a year or two like outwardly with Jailin like a year or two before up in Maryland. So the theory had already been discussed between me and Jailin verbally for a year or so, and then I tried writing it down and making sense of it for a year or so. And then I started inviting people over, and you were one of the first ones. But that's just inaccurate that you made it up with theory with me, because I already had it largely. And now I was trying to figure out how to get people to what were things they were familiar with that would help them understand this, which is where typology, for example, came in. But I could have gone Chinese face reading. I could have done other things. I could have gone with chakras. There are other things of like, oh, that's like a mathematical thing that people study that actually does have relation, I think, to the theory, and trying to start there. So I was trying to figure that out for a while, and eventually I went with typology. And then I started having meetups. But no, you weren't there at the beginning. Okay. And I didn't make things up. I saw things. Now, you can say I'm deluded, and that what I'm seeing is a mirage, and I'll go so far as like it's a figment of my imagination. But if it is, it's putting itself there. I am not actually looking at the world as you apparently are seeing it, and then I'm going to make up a story over it. No, I am seeing the story that I'm telling you all. All right. Let's see. The other thing is here he said that the phenomenon was only made up after the theory was made up, so it was actually made up to back up the theory. No. Again, you're just wrong on that. What actually happened, and I believe I've said this on camera before today, is when anyone asks me like when was like the first time it happened, and Jailene and I talked about this, you know, when was it? It's always been, I believe, the same answer. Jailene in the kitchen of our house in Maryland, and we were talking about what she was, and she was disagreeing or pushing back or whatever, and then I was saying her face is doing certain things. Her jai, I particularly was talking about her jai, what it did to her face, how far up, how it shaped what she's doing, the fact that she did it while waiting, not pushing, that kind of stuff. But jai, I think jai on Jailene was the very beginning, and that was in that 1 to 2 year period before moving out. So, no. And that's just a fact. And I put that on camera many times already, and Jailene can back that up. And then even still, I think when we met early on, we didn't really get deep into the theory yet, and we were starting to work on it, but really early on, people came over from typology, and I corrected their reads. How am I doing that? I'm correcting the reads. So I already have in my head an idea of what actually they're supposed to look like. Again, I could be insane and not actually seeing it, but I thought I was, and that's why I acted like I did and made awkward moments like that. Let's see. You said, I think, to Darius or Alcides in the email, basically, that the fact that I have purified them to Zenai is only obvious in hindsight. I would disagree with that. Again, I want to note that I could be seeing a mirage. I could be reading into things that really don't mean what I think they do. I acknowledge that. However, even if you separate out whether or not it's right or wrong, I believe and have put out there that subjectives have elongated faces and objectives have more compact faces, more substantial, particularly if they are pilots, a directive objective. So both Darius and Alcides look that way to me. So it's not like their faces suddenly got big in hindsight. They were always faces that look a lot more like a pilot. Now we're realizing it. So there's hindsight observation, and then there's just observation. So, well, you're saying hindsight like you're reading into it, but sometimes it's hindsight in that you actually are looking at it with a better lens. When we first looked at both their cases, we had way less data on Zenai. Now we have a lot more. So it makes sense that the understanding of it is more nuanced. And it makes sense that new nuance might have implications for certain cases that were a little fuzzy. And in this case they did. So that wasn't hindsight. Just like his mouth, both of them, the fact that it turns down, has a slackness a lot of the time when they're waiting, the cheeks don't move much. Now, again, maybe that means nothing. But that is aesthetically what I said was likely to be there if they are objective, if they are logic-based, if they are a Jai user. And that is closer to what it looks. So I don't believe they're reading into it. Actually, if anything, they were confused and didn't say anything when they actually had those features and were thinking they were an IG, and they're having to strain to get what their face is doing to make sense as an IG. And then that is released when they actually move over and they're like, yeah. And they can go to the sample surfer and look at lots of Nai and Zenai and not have the dissonance. If both those go into the sample surfer now and put in Niji mail and Zenai mail, they would have a lot of dissonance once they got past, really just in the beginning, between the Niji and the Zenai. They look way more like a Zenai. Again, that may mean nothing. I think it does, but it may mean nothing, but it wouldn't be like they were reading into it. Like a further example of that, I think related, because what you're saying to them would also apply to, for example, Wendy. When she contacted me about thinking she was a Zenai, that wasn't hindsight, because I didn't tell her. I was working on it, and for a while prior, Jalene and I were talking about, I think there might be like some Zenai ladies in our Facebook group that we thought were Niji. And then she contacted me. So she was actually looking with no counsel from me at the new Zenai updates and thinking, that looks like me. So that's just observation. Again, maybe I'm seeing mirages, maybe she's seeing mirages. But we are seeing it. You know what I mean? That's not, well, it's not like a mirage. It's more like a collection of features that look like it has meaning, like, oh, that's the Pope's face, but actually, no, it's just a cookie, right? So, but we think we're looking at it, and it's because it has this certain aspect to it. All right, so to me, I don't think that's hindsight, that's direct. Next. There are multiple critiques that the authority in Podlair is too strongly invested in me. I acknowledge that. And that's actually something that I've been trying to get away from. One, by having readers that can read well enough to give me pushback and give second opinions that really I want to check it out because they are well trained. Also, things like, well, there's the reading, but then also breaking up the theory in general and saying that it's more speculative as it gets higher up. That is releasing my authority. By saying it's more speculative, I'm saying I have less assertion strength there. And then in the samples themselves, I'm gradating the media to show that I have less confidence. But maybe that's insufficient. And I acknowledge that. I also acknowledge I don't quite know what to do about it. I'm trying different things. I really would like there to be the facial reading technology. I'd really like there to be more people who can read closer to my level. I would like that, but I don't have that. So if that is insufficient for you and you feel it's a lacking, I totally understand. But I do take issue with some of the logic you're using. Since you were saying that my logic is lacking, I think there's some logic lacking in this, to me. In that, for example, with critiquing me that I thought that your mother was one mojo, and then Jalene said, oh, I think it rips me of this, and then I changed what I thought it was to what Jalene thought it was. It seemed to me like in that I'm getting dinged for kind of just giving over like that. But I'm also being dinged in that I'm the final authority. So I'm not quite sure what that is, other than am I just being dinged because I do something that doctors do all the time? You know what I mean? They actually consult with someone and they think the person sounds like they know more what they're talking about on that thing, and so they go that way, but it ends up being wrong. So it ended up, the result wasn't good, but actually the procedure doesn't necessarily need to be corrected. We don't need to stop having people go and get second opinions, and then those second opinions, you know, heavily influence the person who asked it. Just sometimes that works out that it comes up the wrong answer, but the practice is still, I think, a good one. So if we take out that just the fact that I then got it wrong for a while, which is it? Do I have too much authority, or do I give my authority over too easily? Because I don't see a bad thing I did there other than I made a mistake. Okay, but that just happens in life. All right. Another kind of, I guess, general theme is that Demas felt that he lost a lot of value in his life, in his time, his energy, skills he could have been training or using elsewhere, his reputation, his sense of trust. I mean, a variety of things. He felt that he actually left the experience with not a good return on investment on any of those kinds of things. Again, I can see that if you don't see the data. Now, if you do see the data the way I do, and I acknowledge that no one needs to do that necessarily, and I may be crazy, but that is the premise of the research project. So if you do believe it, then I gave you the gift of being able to see your Xi cheeks and recognize what a wonderful thing they are, and you can kind of just look at it for the rest of your life. And other humans, you can go, ah, Xi cheeks like me. And again, I get it from other things you wrote that you don't really think that ever happened, but I do. So I contest this valuation of you got let. I'm not contesting things he said about perhaps he gave up career opportunities, perhaps he had friendships deteriorate or drop, perhaps he experienced trauma and various things like this. That may all very well be true, but I do believe that the value being given is exceptional. And because of that, it warrants some sacrifices. Now, the person actually could accept that or not accept that. I've accepted that, and I believe that's the way that'll need to be done to get the ball forward right now. In the early stages, it's going to take some real heavy hitting to get to go forward. And also to get people who are not used to it, new minds, to break free. So it cannot be a sort of, passive or, kind of half-hearted process in any way. That is my belief, my opinion. I'm not saying it is a fact. I don't know it to be true, but I believe it to be true, and thus that's how I evaluate the exchange. The spider hands, the crystalline hands, the Xi hands, I believe that to be a thing. If it is a thing, then I'm pointing out an aesthetic feature of humanity that is just wondrous and connects all the Xi throughout history. We're doing something kind of like you're touching a little bit of all humanity when you do that. Or it's just some hands, and I'm just saying, oh, look at those hands that kind of look alike. Maybe, but I disagree that you were not given something from the process. But I do acknowledge that you didn't get clearly what you felt you should have. All right. Another part there you talk a bit about basically having to kind of go along with what I'm saying. Now, if I didn't do purifications, if I didn't actually have a thread on the forum specifically for getting reread requests, you know what I mean, I can understand this more. Or if I didn't actually do the collage publicly, looking for myself to trip up on camera, or for Jailene or Ben or whoever was doing me at the time to actually see if I might have gotten something wrong. And I put that all on camera too. So I'm a bit, I don't know, confused exactly what else would I be expected to do in that regard. I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of lost on that one. All right. Let's see. Then there was something about me being massively unethical. I think that's a little bit of a hyperbole. Just, since we're talking logic here. Again, you can definitely disagree with this equation, and you probably do, but I am a true believer in the mojo phenomenon. So if you track my hours of the day and what I'm doing, I'm spending almost all my time doing that. So it would be quite difficult for me to be massively anything else than that, because I just wouldn't have the time. But you are welcome to think that, but that's a bit hard to defend, I believe. So is it the comment like I'm being dishonest, and particularly you're talking about how lacking sureness possibly in saying what a read is. And then with Darius, you're saying that you're the one who's honest enough to admit that. But if I told him he's a Xi, not an IG, aren't I being honest enough to say I was wrong? I don't get it. Like, I mean, that. And then I've also told them that I would like more data and I'd like to revisit their cases. You know what I mean? I don't think I've actually like showered them with sureness that they are this thing, although I have told them, which is true, the more I look at Naiji and Xi, the more I think they look like Xi. But since I just turned them over, obviously it makes sense to be a bit, cautious. So if I haven't expressed that clearly enough, I express that now. So I don't think I've really been dishonest that way. For example, like dishonest is that I'm doing it on purpose. I mean, what if I actually think, oh yes, I'm so much more advanced now on Zine eyes that I can tell that they are that and I feel that. I might be wrong. I might be clumsy. I might be reckless, but I don't think I'm dishonest. Because at no point did I try to tell someone an untruth knowing it was an untruth. All right. Let's see. You also made statements of kind of like my reluctance to engage. Well, there's two ways of looking at that. There is totality, in which case I would say I don't think really. I think the volume of things that I have done on the forums, going to the coffee shops, approaching people on the street, the things I've done with the vlogging, I do think my volume speaks for itself, that I actually do get out there, you know, a fair amount. But then there are times where my HSB and other issues, my memory and so forth like that, logical kind of sequencing, I have a harder time both in ability, like just mentally, but also like confidence, getting past my nerves to be able to do it. So perhaps in the beginning I was playing more director and having other people that I knew go on camera more, because I was very camera shy. But I said that at the time, and I said I would try to work on it, and I believe I have worked on it. So I acknowledge that I wish I could have gotten on camera more sooner for the team. I do, but I don't know how much of a huge character flaw that is, because it's stated in the email kind of like, dun dun dun. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I wish I could have done better, I really do, and then I did work better on it, so I don't really think that's like a dun dun, you know, we caught the villain showing his stripes. What else? Dating. You said that the data, if I took a simple look at the Match.com or Dating.com or something like that, it would show me things of that nature. Well, I don't have time to do that on one hand because I have to do so many other things. So I do get what you're saying. That is not the most difficult thing to search, but I'm doing lots of searches. You can look from what I do, you know, with my output. I'm on stuff all the time. So it's not like I decided to do nothing or decided to do something frivolous instead of checking out the dating site. So that's one thing. But then, even that, the way you state it, I believe is a bit of an omission of context, because it's stated as if I have these views on dating hierarchy that are firm and against what that data says, and that's bad. But I actually, over the years, have gone from the various pyramids of inspiration, augmentation, whatever, and then more nuanced that it is the same mojo and the inspirational mojos that show up the most. And then I said a while ago that I didn't know which one was higher than each other. And then a while after that, I was saying, I think more than once, that, oh, me and Jailene need to get on that. I don't really know what the numbers are. We're going to have to go check on that. So, yes, that should be updated. I do not disagree that it's looking like the initial thinking on how that worked needs to be significantly tweaked, granted. But I was doing other things I think were more important to get to than just that. And when I still have been saying that I'm moving towards that, even just like conversationally, conceptually, I've been telling like the core team members like, oh, it's not exactly what we thought. And I've been tweaking. So slow, yes, possibly because I was doing other things, but I was going in that direction. The way you stated it kind of made it sound like I was immune to this. But that's not true. Clearly, by what I just said, which is true, and I think a lot of that's on camera, I have been mitigating that and saying I really need to go check on that. So there's that. Let's see. I guess last one here, last couple is you told in the email that perhaps, talk about various cues and whatnot like it. That might just be how your face looks. Okay, I mean that's an argument. My counter argument. And again, this may sway some people one way or the other, and it may sway no one to my side. But my counter to that is, you look like a Zaini to me. If you go into Sample Surfer and just go through like the first 100 Zine males, there's a lot of similarities with you. If you go into a Naiji or a Vizy, other subjective mojos, not so much. And so I welcome a Demas if he ever feels like it to do it on camera. You can just do it in your own bathroom. But imitate a Naiji. Try to make your cheeks look values-based. Do that. Flex them in a way that you actually feel breaks that. And maybe you already have, and that's fine. But to me, I'm always seeing the Demas look in various things you've done. But perhaps there's a range of Demas's cues that look values-based, look directive. So if so, because I might be crazy, if you could put on camera you being a directive, you being in a way that a person trained in my methodology would categorize as a directive, that would be really cool acting, and because it goes against the way you normally move. But that would really give me a healthy skepticism of like, ooh, I should consider this. What does that mean? The fact that he's able to do that. If you can actually make your spider gesturing, fisted up, make pointing fingers, do choppy, your whole body language, if you can do that and make it look natural state, that'd be very interesting. I would legitimately be interested in seeing something like that as an experiment. Personally, I think that will be hard to do because I've seen a lot of Zine, and those actors that are Zine, comedians that are Zine, I've seen them do a wide range of emotions. Screaming, crying, laughing, big, I mean, being aggressive. I've seen them do all kinds of stuff. They still look Zine to me. But if you can do something outside of that that goes, huh, I've never seen a Zine do that. I've only seen a Naiji do that, for example. If you can do that, that'd be really cool. And I would be like, what? All right. Let's see. Camera. All right. Last thing is, I just kind of want to say that I know there are people that may be, moved by his email, and I'm okay with that. But I do think I should point out what I feel to be some, general lackings in it myself. That's just my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. But I don't mind, for example, Ben's skepticism that kind of came from this email. I found that skepticism quite healthy. I thought his arguments were strong. There are things I'll have to have, the best answers I can through the years. And I don't mind at all the fact that he's moved on to other things that he feels better about. That's like, cool, you're a seeker, you're cool, and you're being skeptical, and it didn't break in my favor. Bummer, because you're a really cool dude, but that's the way it goes, and fair play to everyone. All right. So in here, there's been several already actual errors in like historical timeline that were stated with some sureness, and I don't know how he would know that. For example, like that I'm making things up or that nature. Like he knows. Demas, I mean, we hung out, and a lot of times at night we would have herb, and I would get really panicky. Although it's not because of the herb. I mean, I did herb, I do herb a lot. I do herb a lot. But at night, my mind would race about the fact that I've not figured out the riddle yet, the fact that I'm not able to communicate it satisfactorily, things of that nature. It's generally about figuring it out and being able to explain it well enough. You may disagree with that, but I'm curious because, I mean, do you disagree that I had panic attacks frequently, that I would sit forward, put my elbows like this, and my stomach would get really distended, my breathing would get really contracted. Sometimes I have to take an asthma inhaler, and I'd stay in that position, kind of like in like a gargoyle perch with tension, and I would sometimes be vibrating my legs or whatnot. Okay, so are you saying that those weren't real panic attacks? Because they were. If not, bravo on me for performance and being able to stay in character for years. But no, those are real panic attacks. Next, when people have asked about them or I explained my panic attacks, I think generally said that it comes from the anxiety of, can I perform what my spirits want me to perform? Can I figure this out? Can I share it in a way people will get? And I'm responsible for that, and I don't know if I'm up for it. I don't know if today's work was sufficient to move it forward. I don't know if tomorrow's work will be, yada, yada, yada. So I'm dissatisfied with the day's work. I am intimidated by tomorrow's uncertainty in work and where it's all going. All right, you all heard me talk right now. Was that acting? I mean, you decide for yourself, and I can just present myself, because this is what Demas saw. I was like this. So, is this acting? If it is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like it. I feel like I'm explaining what happened, and that I am having panic attacks for that reason. So how am I having panic attacks on a regular basis for that reason if I'm making it up? Why don't I just make it up something that doesn't make me so anxious? Because that would be nice. I mean, that would be nice. What gets the anxiety away is actually figuring out the riddle more and going, the dissonance of Darius and Alcides has dissipated. That's better. That's the relief I get. I don't get relief from making it up. Because again, like, take them. Why that? Back to like the whole dishonesty thing. Why did I tell them that? If I'm making it up and I'm a dishonest person who's massively unethical, I mean, those are the words in there. Well, the conversation I had with the female members I thought were Nijai for a while, that was really nice. I didn't do it that often because I had to focus on my work, you know, monk style, I can say, but still, I liked just knowing they were out there and that they thought well of me. Just that alone made me feel really good. So I jeopardized all of that to tell them I thought they were Zenai. Why? Why would I do that? I had a conversation with Jarlene, I think more than one, of like, I have to do this, but we may lose them all. They all go, okay, we thought you knew what you were doing, we're going to bounce. Luckily, some of them actually feel that, oh, I do think what he's saying makes sense. Starglow, for example, Wendy, definitely thought that she was saying it because she's the one that came to me first. But, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to make up something that gives me so much trouble. Like, take Darius. Darius and I have a, you know, kind of a checkered past, you know, kind of an untenable relationship over the years. It's been troublesome. Okay, so he and I kind of like pushed back and forth on each other. Why would, of all people, I say to him, I got his case wrong? That was humiliating. It was humiliating. What have I gained from this? From that humiliation? Darius wondering if I know what I'm talking about or not. That was my reward. We have a weird history, and it was starting to seem like it might be getting a little better, and now I have made it weird and dropped my competence in his eyes, and the fact that we have that history makes this whole experience more humiliating than it would be normally. And I got nothing out of that. Nothing. What? Okay. I mean, like, you. I didn't know you felt this stridently against Podlair. You had this much rancor on it, but I knew that you were unimpressed. You had lost interest. You had lost thinking that it was strong or something you really want to be spending a lot of time doing. So it had significantly lost favor with you. I didn't know the rancor, but lost favor, yeah, I knew that. And I respected that. But because I knew that, why would I say that Janina was a Zenai when that's just going to actually make you think, oh, he didn't know what he was doing? If I'm a person who makes stuff up and is dishonest and is massively unethical, I am sloppy. I'm a very sloppy liar that for some reason I can't help telling lies that go against me. Right? Because this makes your position on he doesn't know what he's doing stronger. It made trust that Janina had in me. If she sees the data, her trust goes up. If she's not seeing it and she's just kind of going on my word, then her trust is going to go down because I'm saying I got it wrong. I got nothing from that. And just Janina, you know, I liked her in general. We had a good rapport, so I didn't want to actually disappoint her. But definitely you, since you'd like done the theory and then gone, I'm gonna pass on that. I'm gonna move on. To have to go to your sister, excuse me, because I knew I was going to get back to you probably at some point, and I'm like, I think I got you wrong. You know what I mean? I was like, that was humiliating. Not because you and I had a rough bath. We actually had a really good friendship. I still have fond memories of you. Clearly, you don't feel the same way. Yeah. Jarlene and I talked about this morning, and I was feeling like really bad and so forth. And she said, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to be, have regret. But don't apologize because you weren't trying to do anything wrong and you have been doing a lot of good. But it disappointed people. I regret that. I'm sorrowful for that. But I don't apologize for doing the best I could, knowing what I could. And I got smarter, I think, and I went more that way. I may just be getting more crazy. But even still, in my deranged head, I think I'm doing good. And I'm like, chugga, 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 chugga. I'm doing good. I'm getting rid of my stupid. Maybe I'm adding stupid, but I feel like I'm getting rid of it. Again, you can all look at me. Because Ademus said I'm different off camera. Okay, how different do you think I am? I can tell you that the ranting you see me do, I rant more. The fear I show, I have more. The sadness I show, I have more. The sensitivity to things, I show more. Talking really, really fast, more of that. Talking really, really slow and looking away for a long period of time, more of that. What else? Besides the other eccentricities and failings I have, I've already mentioned over the years, like Ademus being around me. He's in close proximity. I can just tell you things I've been told over the years. Controlling. I can be very controlling. I can be very demanding of making some kind of progress. Overly demanding. I can be overly demanding. I can be overly controlling. What else? Paranoid. I mean, although we did have, some people hack into our sites once in a while, I mean, I was still more paranoid than was actually going on. I try to keep it to myself, but I'm sure it leaked out some, particularly since he was around me so much. So, paranoid. What else? I don't know what else. We did... I'll stick myself. I did the sacred herb on a regular basis. I still do. Not all the time, but most days I do it, and most days I do it more than one time. And I have so for years, and I don't really have a plan of stopping. In fact, I'm moving to Portland, which actually has very beneficial laws in that regard for my situation. What else? I'm doing the monk thing, but that doesn't mean I can't masturbate. I masturbate a lot. I masturbate to hentai. Okay, I'm not saying I'm a greatest person ever. I'm just saying everything I said on camera, I say all the same stuff off of camera. I don't really change that, other than I am less masterful in control of my energies. I am more sensitive, and I react to things more strongly. And as Ademus has mentioned, that nervous energy can kind of infect other people. And for that, I really wish I could do better. But I'm doing, I believe, a very heroic job of it for the most heroic reason I can think of. I could be wrong, I could be crazy, granted, but that's why I'm doing this. And my spirits don't want me to, and Jarlene said I'm not going to apologize for trying my best. But I acknowledge that can be rough for other people to be around. So I wish I'd gone on camera sooner. I wish I'd approached people sooner. I wish I didn't put my nervous energy on you. I wish I didn't panic attack around you so much. Okay. But off camera, I'm on the computer a lot looking at videos and pictures, listening to YouTube videos in the background. At night, I like to do a little foodie thing with Charlene, and then we watch shows that have actors we can look at to expand the virtual village. And then I vlog some. I don't even know where I have time to be this person that he sort of portrayed me to be, because I don't feel that is true. I feel that Ademus is hurt, and I wish that wasn't the case, and I regret that. It makes me sad. I really do. I wish I could have done more for you that would make you think that I'm a good person and that I was helpful in your life. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So this is the end of any hard feelings I have. You asked for me to, if I would respond to this. I'm like, so I'm responding to it. I'm not trying to hide from it. These are my reactions to it. But your thinking to me seems a bit clouded. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. Perhaps they don't. To me, this is cloudier than Ademus I know when you're actually making more sound points. That's just on kind of like the tone, the leaving out certain context, omission, and saying things that you either A, don't know what's in my head. And if you're going for the skeptic thing, I listen to skeptics all the time on vlogging, it's considered a big no-no to actually say, oh, he's doing such and such in his head when I'm not doing... You didn't see me, Ademus, ever say, I'm making this up. Why would I do that? I don't believe it's something to be made up. The thing I can say that we made up, if anything, is perhaps some of the words early on. I was trying to actually talk to typologists. I was trying to talk to them through the cognitive functions they were familiar with, but then it kept making some errors, like the subjective objective being beneath directive adaptive, and that was kind of weirding them out. And the fact that you have to go with seeing it rather than just describing it real well. It's not a description battle, it's an observation battle. So I was like, I have to change it. And then we were already using some of those typology words. So like a lot of things in my theory, I use them as inspiration to make them my own thing. If that's the kind of making up you're talking about, so that's what happened. I don't think that's a problem. If anyone thinks that's a problem, I mean, you can. But really, I've taken things from Chinese face reading, I've taken things from chakras, but corrected it, I believe. Corrections, whether or not they are correct corrections or they're incorrect corrections, neither one of those things are making it up. It's just being wrong, being wrong or right about the answer. Like dishonesty or things like that really is not in that. All right, I kind of finished out here some things that kind of popped out to me, Demas, and you don't have to agree to this, but you like to pride yourself on your logic. I'm going to put out some things that to me seem like kind of like glaring, and even if you disagree with me in a lot of ways, I think your argument would probably be a little tighter if you didn't do these. Some logical inconsistencies. One thing that you claimed is that you were here at the beginning of Podlair, which isn't true. Podlair started before, but even besides, your claim is that, and that you helped make it up with me, as if we're like early conspirators, early co-creators of it. Then you say that I suppressed your natural instincts, your natural, conduct, your natural, what you wanted to do, your heroicness, your authority, various things like you. That was all suppressed, where you are both the, owner, you're getting ownership points, and you're getting victimhood points, but based on the same principle, except flipped. To me, that doesn't make sense. How are you foundational with me, so from the beginning, and that foundation is a made-up one. So a early made-up foundation that's where everything is going. So you, accordingly, are there instrumental in where Podlair went? How is that sublimating you? That doesn't make sense. How can I sublimate you if you are doing it with me and what we're doing is made up anyway? How did I convince you? Okay, maybe you did think it was made up. I have never, Demas, thought it was made up. Maybe you did. Maybe you thought you saw it because I convinced you or whatever. But for me, that has not been the case. It's because I'm looking at it. I think I'm looking at it. Another one is you were talking in the email about you have same mojo friends and it's this and that. So you're making an assertion there. Then later on, you're talking about what a Xeni is, I think to whoever the email was to, but you're saying like, listen, let me slow your roll here. No one knows what a Xeni is, and basically only a fool or a dishonest person or someone would think that. So that is arbitrary opinion. You shot it down. But on that principle, how are you stating with confidence that you have these same mojo friends to make your argument? Because you say that as if that was a thing. But isn't that just arbitrary opinion? Whatever principle you have, you should be able to pull it to both sides of the argument and use it the same way. But you didn't. On one side, them saying, or me saying that Xeni is this or that, you're like, arbitrary opinion, no data for that. By the way, I know that I have these same mojo friends and they're fine and that means whatever. Okay, those are two principles of how to act on something that don't go together. Because you're very smart, Demas, so you do know that you basically dismissed based on arbitrary opinion, and also somewhere else, like a few paragraphs above, asserted based on what you call theirs or mine, it's still arbitrary, opinion. Because I know this email has moved a lot of people, and that's fine. I don't mind it. Like the skepticism it engendered in Ben, I thought it was noble. I actually admire him more than I already did, and him going his separate ways is sad, but it's got a cool kind of nobility. I kind of just salute him and wish him the best. yeah, the conversation with Ben was, awkward and was sad and things like that. But actually, I think I was seeing one of the finest moments of Ben that I've seen him, and I've seen many fine moments. For example, again, like on Z and Xi. This is actually done, I think, right around the same area, like in the same sense, maybe. You basically say that Z and Xi don't work like that, and you really don't, know. And besides, I think that they actually, that's what you said, that the powers actually work together in a way, not independently like they've been laid out in pod layer theory, having their own cues. You're like, they actually work together. That's what the data shows. Based on what? Deimos's lens? Okay, fine. But then you should also allow their lens and my lens. So either my lens and Darius and Alcides' lens means nothing, and yours means nothing, or all of ours means something. But you can't have both ways. I hear the critique, and it engendered in Ben heroic critique. I'm actually going to be making some significant changes because of that and how I move forward in life in big ways. But the critique from Deimos seems a bit overreaching. But I acknowledge that he is disappointed and that he has the right to feel that way. I acknowledge, Deimos, that you have the right to think that what I'm doing is just utter shite. It's just stupid. It's just stupid, stupid, stupid. It's not there. It's a fantasy. He's deranged. He's deluded. He's a fool. He's gullible. He's a conspiracy theorist. I disagree, but I can see how you can say that. But some of the other things, the logic doesn't seem to make a flow. All right. I guess that's basically it. All right. So I kind of mentioned that. So some takeaways. Well, when Ben said he couldn't read it, not read. He said, I'll put words in his mouth. Basically, the first degree A grade data. He thought there are other explanations that could be possible that makes the sureness that I feel in there just not the same that he has, and that he can't base higher stuff on a kernel of such unsure thing. So that kind of broke a spell in me. Kind of like killed a dream, and I'm processing now, letting that dream go. I've always imagined that I'm going to solve the riddle, and that I'm going to put it into a theory that makes some sense, and I'll get credit for both those things. And then also that I will live a life that honors my spirits, including a lot of artistic activities I'd like to get into. I've actually kind of postponed a lot of them, and I'll be doing more of them. But that's because I was really pushing to get these other two, which is like facial recognition technology, or enough people who could see it and make it kind of like a thing that had noise, and then that noise could be used to go say hello world. So getting that initial group of people that are large enough, well, not be big, but large enough with enough level of, oh my goodness, what? You know what I mean? And then that would then lead to other people coming to check it out, and then we would then manage that relationship. So both those two things I have no control over, and I've been kind of releasing that more and more over the years. Yeah, basically that I have to just recognize I can't control that, and that my attempts to do so have put me out of my best abilities, and they have caused people to be upset. So, for example, over the years, I've tried to say from the beginning, because a lot of people coming in were kind of asking for like therapy stuff, and I said, I don't do therapy. All the people would still try to do that. And then I was kind of like not doing that, but I was still kind of doing some life coaching, but I still was trying to say like, yeah, but I really can't be doing that too much. But I was still doing that to the point that people are listening to me, and they are disappointed that my take on things is not as sure as they thought, and they feel wobbly inside, and they're like, oh, I can't be doing that. And I'm like, okay. I'm going to focus on what I can do, and that's going to open up some other things in my life that I can take a look at. So I'm focusing on just figuring out the riddle for myself and putting it down into like an ebook or something, mainly so I can just see my thoughts organized, and also I can get credit from future generations. But I do not want to be trying to actively teach people. So I don't want to be a therapist. I don't want to be like a life coach advisor. I also had been trying to push to this not so much a life coach, but more of like a tracker guide. I really don't even want to do that now. I want to just do Explorer. I just want to self-explore and write down what I get for me to solve the case. And you know, if people can want to see that, whatever, that's fine. They can check it out, or they can just let the crazy man over there do his thing. I'm going to try and not get involved in people's lives very much. Also, as a part of that, I do want to actually vlog more. I want to vlog more, have conversations, but I don't want to actually get to where I'm playing life coach with this kind of stuff that's based on data. Because then the data might shift, I might go a certain way to get better, but it actually makes people go, you know, my world has been upended, and I don't want to be responsible for that. I recognize that that can be very traumatic, and I thought that the value of seeing this tool and getting good at it was better than those kinds of ups and downs, but now I don't think so. I think that in my lifetime, this is probably going to be way too ahead of its time, that very few are going to be able to see it. So going after that as a victory for my life is not really smart. I should actually go after solving the riddle, writing it down, doing lots of spiritual work that's cool, and going out and enjoying life and having lots of interesting conversations that can stimulate my mind to write more and read more. Kind of implied in that is I'm going to be taking a hiatus indefinitely from doing personal reads for people, read requests. Not read requests on public samples. If it's a pop culture figure, I'm still collecting anything people want to send my way. But I'm not going to be focusing on read requests that come in because I feel pressure and there's not a lot of return. And also, almost always when we have initial, here's what I think you are, I try to point them to like self-study and, you know, looking at the mojo phenomenon so they can feel stronger and confidence and so on. But usually they want to have more of a help me figure out me. And I just can't do that. My efforts, clearly in the case of Demas and Ben, they were insufficient. And I don't like failing people. I hope we can have as much as, you know, respect for each other as possible, people who just massively disagreed. But whatever rancor you feel you need to hold on to, I can't stop that other than saying I never wished to do that. That was not my intention. I really wanted to have, you know, Demas and Ben and so forth, like, you know, talking to people on the vlogs and having people coming around, and then we would become known on like TED conferences, and we'd all be given different conferences in different parts of the country. That was my dream. So clearly didn't get there. I didn't intend to be dishonest or anything because I believe I'm seeing the phenomenon. I thought I was sharing a really good gift, and I was thinking and hoping it was going to go faster into the world than it's going to. So I didn't know that then, but I know it now, and I'm gonna, you know, act accordingly. So I'll keep doing my work and leaving it out for there, but then as far as people's reads, they can do for self. They can take the responsibility of looking at these samples and then applying it to themselves, and then taking responsibility for whether or not that answer is correct or not. And they can keep working with the program, which I'll try to keep with more samples that are cleaner, and then hopefully that will get their skills up for anyone who wants to try it, and then they can work their own cases. I want to pull myself out of working people's cases, getting too involved with things outside of kind of working on tracking the phenomenon. Yeah, and then relationships, I plan going forward, like I'm moving to Portland and everything. I'm going to be, you know, going around there and checking out all the stuff it has to offer, and then also I want to talk to people on the internet. I think I want to go on conversations that are really interesting to me, but don't necessarily directly go on this theory I'm working because it's going to disrupt my headspace too much. But that'll be good. I'll have really good conversation, but there's no expectations of my theory like giving them something or for myself like that one is going to help out the other either way. So I think that will be a better way for me to go through life. Although it's not the way I was planning, and it's going to take a little while to, you know, accept and just internalize the loss of that future. But, you know, I believe Mojo Reading has trained me well for this, in that feeling of, oh, it's not what I thought, but in the end, it's always better to kind of just know what it is. So in this case, it is what it is. All right. Anything else? think that's pretty good. If anyone has questions, I'm going to be out of the loop for a while, going to the Portland move starting tomorrow, and I'm going to do my best to interact with the world, but I'm not sure. There's going to be a feeling out process of how I'm going to be able to interact with the world now. I'm going to want to be kind of doing my own thing, focused more than I had been. But at the same time, if people have certain things they want to ask, I will look into it. But I'm going to have to let you know now, there's probably a lot of things I'm going to just not want to get into, because I don't want to give you life advice and then have it end up not being the correct answer, and then it really upends your life. Yeah, I feel really bad about that, and it's very stressful. So, again, I'll apologize because I was trying the best I could the whole time, but I really regret that I was not good enough at this craft. I believe is a real thing, until not until after I'd known you for a few years. I really do wish that I had these skills and abilities prior. I think, like, if Darius Nakides had showed up, and I'd never met them before, but they actually showed up, recently, I think I could have much more comfortably read them as Xeni, where I am now. But that is just not how things went. Timing is everything, but that timing was not good. All right. So good luck to everyone, and I'll be out there. If you want to follow me, you can probably note that I'll be in the time to come in Portland. I'm going to be going on the internet and just trying to, like, tap people on the shoulder I think are just interesting philosophically, and just see if anyone wants to chat with me. I think that'll be really stimulating. Okay, bye-bye.